Good morning. Welcome to the 40th CALLERLAB Convention in Cary, North Carolina. Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2013, and this is the musical showmanship session. My name is Wade Driver, and our panelists today are Buddy Weaver, owner-producer of Boostar, Hi-Hat, Bobcat, Lore, Rockin' A, et al. Records, and Mike Sikorsky, owner-producer of MAP Records, Mesa Apache Junction. Good. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Our job today is how to give you interesting ways to put showmanship in your presentations using music. And we've got two of the best here do that. Matter of fact, Mike was the 2011 Showmanship of the Entertainer of the Year award winner for our Aussies. I'm not sure it had a thing to do with music. Just kidding. We all go back a ways, so we do this. Anyway, first of all, I think let me give you. You ready?
Oh, sure.
Buddy Weaver.
Hey, musical showmanship, by golly, it's almost redundant because music is such a large part of what we do anyway, and it is a large part of the aspect of showmanship. So many callers, or a few callers that I've run into, really think that choreography is the be-all and end-all for showmanship, and really you're missing half of it. You're missing more than half of it probably, because the music is, after all, we are doing square dancing, and the music is what drives people to dance. I would say this about the musical aspect of how I approach it. Everything is going to be in my humble opinion, on how I look at music. Number one, I think everybody, for me, I'm on digital format. I don't use vinyl records. Everything that goes on my computer is what I consider to be A-game music. There's nothing on here that's mediocre. If it's mediocre, I don't even want it on my computer. I don't want to have to pull up a piece of music and say, oh, gee, I'm really not that crazy about that piece of music. So that's number one. If it isn't just the best, it doesn't have a place on my computer. If it doesn't have a great sound to it, a nice clean sound to it, if it isn't a digital to begin with, or if it wasn't a piece of vinyl that we really cleaned up really well, and that's going to be covered in a different session, or has already been covered in a different session, then here again, it's just not going to be on the computer. So that when I walk up here, it is ready to go. I approach music from a couple different standpoints. Number one, I always want to understand what the rhythm is, because the rhythm is very important to me. Are we driving the people with a 2/4 beat, which is going to be a little bit more of a driver? Are we going to let a croon to them a little bit with more of a 4/4 shuffle? Or are we going to try to inspire them a bit more with a 6/8? The subset of that becomes within 2/4, 4/4, and 6/8 is the orchestration thereof. And for me, it breaks down to things like contemporary versus traditional. And I want to give you a couple of working examples, and I'm just going to stick to some hoedowns here for a bit. First off is everybody is familiar with these alternative pieces of music. And alternative music, I think, has a great place here. This is a nice alternative piece, and this is kind of how I might start out here. And it kind of give you a good working example. Are we down on music? Typical 4/4 shuffle, which everybody's kind of used to. This rhythm I like to consider a Euro disco beat, and I like this beat. I think from a musical standpoint, it really drives the dancers crazy. I'm very careful about alternative music in that I want to make sure that rhythm is very strong and it's driving the dancers, and I want it to give me a nice phrasing too, so that I can call in phrase and I can give the dancers the first beat of the phrase. Phrase starts. And phrase starts. Dancers really will dance on phrase by instinct. if they're not, it's me who's driving them off the phrase. It's the caller who drives them off beat. It's the caller who drives them off of the musical phrase. We learned that as children in kindergarten, in pre-K. You know, when you did little hand clapping games, you know, B-I-N-G-O. Every child will instinctively go to that, and it's only if the teacher starts to fall off the beat, B-I-N-G-O. That's where they're driven off the beat, and that's how I feel as a caller. We have to be very careful with how we present our music and let the people stay with the beat, stay with the phrase, which is what they want to do anyway. That's a nice shuffle. That's an alternative piece of music. There's other shuffle pieces. What's the name of that? Halfway Around the World. I got that off of Amazon.com. 99-cent download. I don't know who it's by. You see, now, wait a minute. I'm not at the question and answer part yet. Any questions, please, on the microphone?
By the way, this is a recorded session, so if you do wish to speak or whatever, please use this microphone, identify yourself, and speak into the mic.
And please hold your questions for Wade. This is another 4/4 shuffle, and I'll use it for hoedown. And I consider this a contemporary mix. In my way of looking at it, the orchestration is either contemporary, where it has a modern feel to it, or it's more of a traditional feel to it. This is Wade's piece of music. I love this as a hoedown. This just drives people crazy. This is called Call Me Maybe. I know you sent me the hoedown. I haven't opened that up yet. I've been on the go for a while. I got dancers who will tell me, "Oh, that's Call Me Maybe." Now, I couldn't tell you that's Call Me Maybe. My kids could tell you that's Call Me Maybe. But I've got dancers out there because they're tuned into what their kids or grandkids are listening to. You know, we can contrast that with some 4/4 that would be more of a traditional style. I don't want to take up a lot of time here. I want to try to move on to something other than that and get into some other different rhythms and what I feel drives people. I think 4/4 is the rhythm du jour. In square dancing, we go by fads. You can go back probably 70, 80 years, and the rhythm that was driving most of our dances was a 6/8 rhythm. And then you can go back into the 1950s and 60s, and most of the rhythms that were driving us was a 2/4 boom chuck. And now the rhythm that drives most square dances is the 4/4 shuffle. And 4/4 shuffle, understanding that a 4/4, every time you hear that boom, 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 that's a step. That's your step down, step down, step down, step down. The boom chuck is your boom chuck, and then the chuck is telling you to bring your foot back up again. Now, if you just drive the dancers all night long with a boom, boom, boom rhythm, it's like marching them around a whole bunch. Be very careful with that. It has a wonderful place in the program, but it has to be contrasted with something other than a shuffle rhythm. Otherwise, the people, you might see that when the dancers start to eventually stop dancing and just kind of strolling around, they're circling, they're just kind of walking. Well, that's because you've overdone the rhythm. It's not their fault. It's your fault. You've given them too much of a marching 4/4 rhythm. You haven't given them enough of a contrast. So if you're going to come in here, and I'll open up a dance, typically with one of my favorites. This is Beautiful Sunday. I love this piece, and I did it. I made the comment before. I'll produce music for myself and my buddies. I don't really care if I sell anything. I'll just produce it for me and my buddies, just because this is the kind of music I like to call to. Step, step, step. It's contemporary in its composition. There's some live musicians in there, buried. It's a happy piece of music. It's a sing-along. Sing-alongs are critical for me. I think if people are singing, you've got them. If people are talking, you've lost them. There's a difference. and you got to watch out for that. That's probably what I would open up with on any given dance, and I'd probably turn around and play a...
May I say something on that?
You may.
There's one thing I'd like to comment on that. In the background, one of the things that really sells this piece, because I love this piece of music that Buddy put out, that's some horns going, and that's what sells this thing. It's so cool.
And to Wade's credit, who says that nobody ever listens to him, I actually did. And one of the things we do when we go in the studio, I said, the fills and chases. I want the fills and chases up, and I want my leads down, because I want to hear those little pieces in there that are chasing you around, so that that. Whenever I stop calling, whenever I stop singing, there's something chasing me out of here. We're singing, hey, 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 it's a beautiful day. There's never a lull in there. It just follows me all the way around. One thing that we've started to do on the pieces as a showmanship tool is harmonies. Harmonies do have a place in everything if it enhances the song. If it enhances a song. And if you can find the pieces that have harmonies, or perhaps you're doing your own harmonies, I highly recommend that you take advantage of these mixing tools that are on your MA150s. It's called a balance switch. And what we started doing is, what I've started doing is I'll put the music with harmony on one track, left track for example, and music only on right track. They're in perfect sync, so that as I'm playing it along, let me jump into the middle of this song just a bit, which has a harmony cut into it. I've actually got harmonies put on one side and no harmony on the other, so that if I'm working with another caller and he's going to do the harmonies, we'll take him out. No harmony. This is my beautiful day. When you say, no harmony. I love it. It's the neatest tool we have at our disposal that we don't take advantage of. Round Dance Curious discovered a long time ago. They put their cues on one track and no cues on the other track. We can do that as callers, and it makes a great little tool. You'll hear that a lot on the stuff that we do, and I'll bet you starting next week, Rhythm will start having it out. The other thing that music does, showmanship-wise, is I want to take people somewhere. We talked about this earlier. You can play a song, and it's going to take people back to certain memories. It's going to take them back to a certain time in their life. I don't think that there's any song that I do on any given dance where I don't give you a little backstory to it. And I'll tell people, I'll ask folks, how many of you folks remember the group Chicago? How many of you folks remember the group Chicago? Man, it was an awesome group, wasn't it? They had some really, really nice music. And so we've got this piece of music here that I think you're going to absolutely go crazy about. Does anybody know what time it is? Well, that's actually the name of the song. And so that's your little lead-in. It's chasing me all the way around. It's so hard to find a piece of music that just sounds so much like the original, and when you can find it and you can play it, and dancers just go absolutely crazy about it. It takes them back to another place, another time. And so it's nice to have a little story kind of leading him into it. I might have a little story about Paloma Blanca. I might have a story about a particular song that we're doing and how it got started. I'm going to absolutely contrast my entire program with rhythms. I talked briefly about 2/4. 2/4, we kind of think that it's all this old boom chuck, the old-fashioned style. There's some nice pieces of 2/4 that are more modern in their composition. I'm not going to be able to find it right now. Here we go. Bob's Cabin. This is off of Riverboat. This is more modern composition. More of a country piece. more of a contemporary. This is actually a Japanese folk song, correct? Folks come up and would say, "Oh, I love that piece of music," and some folks will come back and say, "Isn't that called Red Handkerchief?" It is. It's a Japanese folk song, right? And some folks will absolutely know it. And the one thing that I think is missing in a caller's repertoire, and I really jump all over it, is the use of 6/8 rhythm, not only in singing calls, but I use 6/8 for hoedowns. I think 6/8 for hoedowns just drives people crazy in a good way. In a good way. There's some nice little Riverboat Reel is a good one. I'd said in a session previously on a different year that 6/8 rhythm is cool because it makes you call differently. And if you don't fall into the proper cadence of the call, that rhythm is just going to be kicking you the entire time, kicking you in a bad way. So you really have to adjust your calling style. So, we can come in with a little machine gun approach with a 4/4. We can do the traditional, bow to your partner corner 2 on a 2/4. But when you get to a 6/8, you've got to really adjust your calling. Alabama left the old left hand, and here we go, a right or left grand. And the dancers fall into that little cadence that you give, do, and 1 and 3, move up and back. A right or left through, and roll away, go forward, up and back, go away, slide through your do-si-do. It's a nice little sing-songy way. If you're a new caller, I encourage you to learn how to call pattern to 6/8. I would encourage you to go out and buy El Paso City and learn how to call a pattern to El Paso City. It's really an awesome hoedown, and it's great a way to kind of get introduced to the whole thing there. I'm going to just kind of wrap up by saying that the secret to musical success is variety. Variety. And when we talk about variety, we've got all kinds of new music and old music out here. And I talked a little bit about vinyl records. I talked a little bit about alternative music. You can have variety and you can have contrast, but you can also have conflict. And I've seen sometimes where a caller will come out with something that's a very modern piece and then try to chase it with something that's very old-fashioned. That's not a contrast, it's a conflict. So I played this earlier. This is Halfway Around the World. This is a typical alternative piece. I'm probably not going to chase it with this kind of singing call. They're not complementary to each other. Musically, that's a mistake on my part. That's a mistake in judgment, because that last singing call, which is Take Me Home Country Roads, is a beautiful piece of music. It's a bit dated. That's going to be contrasted with something more like it, perhaps from more of that genre of music, and it might be something more like come on computer, come on a little bit further, something more along the lines of this kind of hoedown, perhaps. Boom, chup, boom, chup, boom, chup, boom, chup, boom, chup. I could do that kind of hoedown and follow with this kind of singing call. See, they complement each other. Blue Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River. That's a musical complement as opposed to a musical contradiction. And so that's what I'm going to close by saying, look for that. That's the showmanship aspect of it. Variety, but bear in mind it has to complement each other. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Wade.
All right. How about a nice hand, Buddy Weaver? Super. Outstanding. For once, write this down. I agree with everything he said. That may be a first.
I knew I liked you.
There you go. Next in our program. And what is nice about this particular trio of people you have up here is that our approach is probably as eclectic as you're ever going to find. And we have 3 different approaches to what we do, but we all want the absolute same product. And it's just, I mean, I might want to go to Chicago, so might he, and so might Mike. We might use 3 different highways, but we're all going to get to Chicago. And that's the name of the game. Nice to have Mike Sikorsky.
Thank you, Wade. Nice job, buddy. Gary, would you help me out here? Maybe pass some of this. I've got a handout. This is not on the disc because I was delinquent turning it in, so it's not on the CD. So it's just a basic outline, but it might be helpful if you're going to take notes, take them on that paper. This is just a basic outline. The first item is I'm a little wary of anything you download from Amazon, because if it's what we call an instrumental piece of music, it has an instrument singing the song. There's something that's very prominent that's playing the melody sometimes, that's playing the melody right where the clarity of your voice needs to be. And I have personally had a problem buying songs from Amazon, putting it on Audition and expanding it really large, and then trying to, we talked about cutting a smile in the music somewhere in the mid-range, upper mid-range, where your clarity is. You go to the 40-band, 30-band graphic equalizer and you cut a little smile in it. Even that, when you resave it to MP3, it starts sounding like it's underwater. I have not had that problem with Walmart, but if you want to use stuff from Amazon or Walmart that's pop music for 99 cents, you're going to have to spend $199 and buy Audition and learn how to use it, and go to the graphic equalizer and take 30-band graphic, find the midpoint and the high, and cut a smile somewhere, and then resave it. But you're going to have to expand it to the largest and bring it back down. That's the only way. The only other choice is to completely overuse this thumb wheel. And what you do right there, this thumb wheel on the music, this is the quickest way to destroy your clarity. Because if you look at the clientele we generally call to, there's some form of hearing impairment with a lot of them. Is your computer talking to me?
No, his is.
Oh.
It had a twang.
Yes, it did.
It did have a twang, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yes, he twanged at me. No, I did not. So I personally, what I do when I'm looking for music, if I find something I like on Amazon, I'm going to find the name of it. I go to karaoke-version.com and I look for the karaoke version of it. And there's a place for a voice to fit, and that is vacant. That's where your clarity sits. And you don't have to play up and down with this thumb wheel all the time. You play up and down with this thumb wheel all the time, and what you've got is you've got people paying attention to that music right where you want them paying attention to you. Same part of the brain. They can't do both at the same time, so they switch back and forth. Question? Karaoke-version.com. Caution, when I first purchased from them, my debit card did not like the fact that was a site in France, and I was buying from a place in Colorado when I live in Arizona. They locked down my card. It took me 3 days to open it up. They couldn't get me to the right department to unlock the card. So, but karaoke sites, and you can go to more than one, but you got to get the music out of your way. That's my opinion. Now, there are some hoedowns, and of course what I'm going to demonstrate is all on my label here, but this is one a lot of callers use. This was put out as a singing call. It's the very first release I ever did. Good downbeat, boom chuck, called Forever Young. And when you call, you can call on that note there, you can call on that note there. Now, do you notice how the frequencies don't interfere with my voice at all? But I can do that, and I can mess you up. If I call like this, you can put the music in the back of your brain somewhere else, and you can listen to what I'm saying. You still enjoy the music, but you're paying attention to me. Heads lead to the right, veer to the left, bend your line. Do a right or left through, and you turn her, and then you pass through. And you wheel and deal, or I can do this, and then I can go double pass through, track two around, and then swing through. Boy run, Ferris wheel. Centers pass through, touch a quarter and scoot back. No. Unplug this thing. You're right, I'm not. And most callers I've heard are not very good at this. Definitely opposed to this thing. Okay, now. Yes. Okay, here's another piece of music. Starts it's got kind of a funky little beat to it. bow to the partner. Heads, lead to the right, veer to the left. Bend the line, do a right on left through. Turn the girl like that. A little funky little beat, but it's still boom chuck, boom chuck. You can kind of put it in just about anywhere. So it's sort of on the border between the traditional and kind of approaching the alternative style of music. Now, did I say hand go up? Cuidado, C-U-I-D-A-D-O, means caution. Yes, it's actually on the handout. All of these are available with either Pam or with AS Records, Bob Shiver. This is my brand new one. Bob Shiver has this, and now that I know that Pam is in the business, I'll send it her in the next couple of days. This is my brand new. It's called Haunted. If you like minor key kind of things, nice boom chuck. There's nothing in your way. Plenty of place to put your voice. You can sing here, you can sing here, you can put your calls here. You can put them here, put them here, put them here like that. No frequencies interfering with what I'm trying to say. Now, it's not that frequency conflict where some guitar or piano jumps out where your voice should be and they're competing. That's not going to bother you at your club dance when you got 2 squares or 3 squares, but about the time you go to a dance, and if you're a real caller, you have your stuff in the trunk. And Wade's supposed to call there, and Wade's got laryngitis, and he says, I can't be there. Can anybody call this dance? And you walk in. It's happened to me just a year or so ago. You walk into the dance, and they come to you, and they get in your face and say, did you bring your equipment? Can you call? So now instead of calling for 3 squares, you're calling for 20. And those very crunch points right there, just those little things where somebody didn't quite hear you. And they're going to think you're not quite up to the task. Clarity is very, very important. You have to keep those crunch points out of your way. Here's another one. More traditional, but again, it's just boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, chicka boom, instead of the normal boom chuck. Now, the next thing on there, this is one. Now this one Wade likes a lot. This is called Knockout. Head square through and get me 4, round you go. Touch a quarter, then scoot back. Come on, boy, run right. Do a right or left through, and you turn that girl. So you can keep the music out of your way. But that one's a little more active, but it still drives pretty good. Did you know how, in the case, what Buddy was doing and what I'm doing, we use the music to complement us. We find the groove in the music, and we put our voice in it, and then we go down the highway, as Wade would say. The music is not, we're not competing with the music in any way. We choose music that enhances what we do, but it doesn't get in our way. And oftentimes when we walk through a national convention and listen to callers in different halls, they're using music that gets in their way. And by getting in your way, they said something that a guitar jumped out on top of, and we didn't quite hear the word. And there was a square in the back that broke down because they didn't quite hear the call. Now, Buddy talked about giving the dancer beat one of the phrase. And so I want to jump down here, and I want to talk about the difference between right and left through and turn the girl. So let me bring up that hoedown. Because if you can feel where you are, see, callers oftentimes will do this. Bow to the partner, corner 2, join hands, circle left. There's beat 1, and they think they gave him beat 1, and they just stepped on all the other beat 1s they could have given him. Instead, maybe this. Bow to the partner, bow to the corner. Join hands and circle left. You notice I didn't say join hands, circle left. If I said join hands, circle left, join would have stepped on a beat 1 or a beat 5 I could have given him. And it's, since we can't, this isn't contra, we can't give him beat 1 at the end of every call we do. That means, in my opinion, what we need to do is give it to them audibly every chance. Again, that's how they feel the music. Let them hear it. When beat 1 is there, the more you can shut up, the better off you are. Okay. So now I'm going to phrase it like I did, okay? Bow to the partner. Bow to the corner. Join hands and circle left. Men star right. Alamana left. Do a right or left grand. Promenade home. Now maybe I said that a little early. They aren't quite there yet. But then I'm going to shut up and let them hear beat 1. So if we did it with the right and left through. Now here's the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do a right and a left through. On that one, you don't say turn the girl. Because I started the call on beat 7. Let me do it again here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do a right and a left through. And they had beat 1. Now, if I happen to call it on beat 5, I'm going to say turn the girl. 1, 2, 3. Do a right and a left through and you turn that girl. But you don't step on beat 1 like this. 3, 4, 5. Do a right and a left through and turn that girl. Don't. You say the word turn on beat 1.
I don't know if you noticed, but see, he's got that talent. He's got all this pretty music playing in the background, and he's careful not to call over that pretty music. He gives you the call, and he lets you have that pretty music to listen to or to kind of guide you or make you feel that call that he's giving you.
People comment a lot that they like the music that I choose, and I think one of the reasons is I give them this beat all the time. And I'm kind of all the way through this, so I can take a few questions, but down here at the bottom, programming hoedowns and singing calls. Wade has a tremendously great model for programming singing calls at a dance, and you can talk about that a little if you want to. But in essence, the first 3 tips of a dance, his model is great, but as you progress and you gain more skills, you want to fine-tune that model. And then you develop slightly modified models depending on which dance you go to. Has anybody ever walked into a dance thinking you were going to do certain things, and maybe third tip you try past the ocean with the boys in the middle and that sort of thing, and the first tip you call a head square through 4 and touch a quarter and scoot back, and they did that, but when you said scoot back again for the girls to do it, the boys had already run around the girl. And time to go to model B very quickly. That's what you develop, is the ability to change that. Now, there is a difference. Last thing I want to say here is the difference between the guest dance and the club dance. Now, Buddy said I might use this particular song and it was to start the dance with as a hoedown, and it was very busy. There was a lot of music there. I might do that at my own dance with folks that are dancing with me all the time. I might do that. On the other hand, if I'm calling an anniversary dance and there's half the crowd, a third of the crowd that has never danced to me before, I'm not going to use the first tip. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But I might do. All that stuff is above where the clarity frequencies of my voice are. All that up there. I might do that. Or I might go down here. In fact, Buddy, I think this is on your label. 1020? Is this on hi-hat? A lot of extra funky little beats, but it's still boom chuck. I can set the volume and leave it. They can get adjusted to my voice as I get to them. The last thing now is I like to program hoedowns and singing calls. So like Buddy says, we will use complementary pieces of music, the hoedown and the singing call. On the intensity level, that's about a 6 on Wade's schedule. Number 2, you pick a hoedown and a singing call that are complementary at about a 7, 8, 8.5 level. And tip 3 is when you are probably going for the 9. But I've had dances where I did that, and the patter was the 9. But toward the end of the patter, I noticed people are kind of not quite getting there. I've got to allow like one more beat every third call, and they're kind of tiring a little. It's like, whoops, I don't think I'm going to do a 9 complimentary. I'm going to change course right then, and I'm going to drop back to maybe a 7, so they think I'm doing a 9, but not quite. And then I'll take 4, the number 4, and come down to the 4. We are talking about the intensity level of the music. We are not talking about the intensity of your voice. Your voice is at 110%. Your emotion level is at 110%. You are there to give them the best show they've ever had. That's what you do. Thank you.
All right. Nice hand of mic. Can I plug my little remote back in now? Oh, yeah, thanks. All right. The right place. Remember, I love these. I just had cataract surgery, so I can see you, but I can't see this. So remember, I said we had an eclectic group because we all do things different to get the same place. You know, and I have no idea whether I give them the first beat or not. Don't care. and everybody has to do what you're going to do. I grew up in the old days that I called it syncopating. If I didn't call it a downbeat, if I called them the upbeat, it's called syncopation. If I call them downbeat, it's not. I don't really know, and I'm going to tell you why. And it has nothing to do with right or wrong. First of all, your calling is like buying a toothbrush. It's very personal. And your style and what fits you is personal. When we do, you listen to music. You might listen to 10 pieces of music. Because I do it well does not mean you should do it. You should do it because it fits you. And you do whatever you call, patter, whatever. Patter record, I like sometimes busy patter records, sometimes not. But I do suggest that you know it cold from beginning to end, and everything is going to go on in there, right? And he mentioned one that he does on MAP, that knockout. I love knockout. I love some of the fills and the rides on there. Now, but I'm not going to use that for the demo. Where is that last thing here? There's one in particular that I love to use for an example because if you don't know it, this boy will just knock you out of the park because he does a running, and if all of a sudden it comes up and you aren't ready for it, this thing here. Right. You can just call away like crazy. There are places in here where he's going to make funky little noises. You need to leave a hole for him. I got no problem here. I can just call right over the top of him. I'm doing just fine. But if I'm going to come up to place here, and let's say let's say it's mainstream, and I want to do a spin, chain, through, go. I got to be a good baby. Now, I may or may not have phrased that. Don't care. And I may give him the first beat. Don't care. don't care. And the reason is, and I have a different approach, and I can't tell you how to do what I'm going to tell you to do. You take the music, put it on like a coat. You just get inside of it and let it tell you what to do. I do the same thing in writing figures to sing calls. They say, I love it. Somebody will say, I've written this beautiful choreography of a singing call. Can we write a singing call to match it? How in the world would you ever do that? You got to have the music first and then figure out what's going to fit the music. I see it now. I've had songwriters, and I say, well, you write a poem and then you find music. But 99% of them, they had this melody in their mind, and they go write a song that matches it. And you put them together. They have to marry each other. So I guess there's some singing calls that they're very, I use it put for purpose. For example, some of the songs that some of the hoedowns that Mike was talking about, I use because they don't get in my way, and I want to call maybe difficult or complex choreography or whatever. The tougher your choreography, the simpler your patter record better be. Because you can't have all this busy stuff going on and trying to tell them to flip the upside down woozy. The two just don't. That's, again, complementary. You not only have to complement your pattern with your singing called music, but the choreography you put in there has got to complement. If I'm going to do something difficult, and for example, here's a 4/4 or the Buddy was talking about, which is a great pattern, but it's 4/4 with an upbeat. And I like this because I have that 4/4, but it's got that little transmission making you go forward. Now, but on the other side of the coin, there's no voice. Nobody's getting in my way until you get later. But listen to the type of voices that come in later. Come on, sing, lady. Now, to me, a voice is just another picker. It's just another musician in there as far as I'm concerned. Now, occasionally you have musicians that play too loud, and I don't use them. If you've got somebody that sings too loud, I don't use them. All right? But this is one where my showmanship is I'm going to call stuff and I want to direct you right what I want to say. The only time I'm going to do that is if I'm not saying I'm going to do an Alabama left and a right and left grand. And now, only from a point of view of emotional impact. All right, I deal everything with emotion. Everything with emotion. Look at the lady who's Denise that spoke yesterday morning. She reached out and she got your emotions and says, I got you. All right, that's what it's all about. You do that with music. You emotionally control your floor. You want them to go up or down or whatever you want to do. And now, if I'm going to do something that come on like this, if I put on a piece of music, at least the dancers who are used to me, if I've got something that starts off just really, who's messing with my machine here? Well, it's gone away. There we go. Now, you know, I'm going to call something that's going to be difficult, and you better pay attention because there ain't nothing else going on with this thing, and I'm either going to teach or cue or do something because there's nothing going to get in my road. Now, if I come on and put something on that's really busy, that's going to be more, so instantly they're upbeat, right? And I just but vocals don't bother me. I know Mike likes to cut his smile out, and that's fine. It is what it is. You do what fits you. I got somebody that I said, have you used this Australian hold down? He said, I hate didgeridoos. Then don't use it. You know, it's kind of like the response used to be the guy in the back left corner says, I can't hear back there. I said, don't dance back there. It's easy enough, you know. But you've got all sorts of. But the key is I got to get every kind of music in the world, but you know them. Make sure you know what it's going to do. Don't be surprised, you know. Mike sent this thing that Haunted. It's got a great, first thing Buddy says, is that Santana? Because it's got a Santana feel to it. We haven't had a hold down like that before. That'll be kind of cool. I'll enjoy using that, all right? There are karaoke pieces that are great hold downs. I've got one here that we downloaded that's just outstanding, but it's got what I like it for is not just the rhythm, little pieces. This is a karaoke to a Johnny Cash song called Get Rhythm. Well, listen. That's what I got it for, is what's pushing those dancers. You get even them old codgers like me, they just gonna get in there and start grooving that thing. But about halfway through, there's a slide steel guitar that goes bow, bow, and I just love that thing, right? Don't let me down now. There you go. Square through four, do side do, swing through, boy run right, bend that line, get a right or left through, well, look, you know where it is. Now, it may sneak up on it, but as soon as that starts to play, I will change my approach in the way I'm delivering that choreography. just to get done. You watch that floor, and I promise you, all of a sudden they'll go, they start moving around that floor just like that. They do. You know, California, you call it slide through. What do? Whoosh. He taught them that. He taught them whoosh. You get in that habit of reacting. And what you want to get your dancers to react to stuff like that. Now, from a showmanship point of view, which is what this is supposed to be, my approach is I like to use pop music. Pop stands for popular. It's popular because it's good and because the people like it. If they already like it, how many of you have been to I know none of y'all ever been to clubs and listened to live music and drink, whatever, but just in case you might have. Have you ever, back in the early 70s when I used to travel, particularly traveling salesman for a real job, every Ramada Inn and Holiday Inn in Sheridan had a band in a club, all right? And you go in there after the long day working, talking with some of your buddies or whatever, and the band's playing. They may be good, bad, whatever. But they would get up and say, we're going to do our version of. You know it's going to be bad before they ever hit the first note because they're going to take somebody's really good tune and just screw that thing up every time. Used to be China Grove. We're going to do our version of China Grove, and I heard every bad version of China Grove has ever come down. Don't do that, all right? And this is why we're going to cut a tune, cut it like it was originally done, and sing it like it was originally done. Why would you want to put on a love ballad and call a hot hash? Makes no sense to me. That's conflicting. As Buddy and Mike both said, compliments. So if you're going to do a tune, for example, and the way things were originally done is the way dancers recognize them. I should have put my mouse out here. All right, for example, all right, nobody leaves the room. Hound. People recognize. What is it? Thank you. You know, they recognize certain things they hear on the radio. Why fight that? Okay, and this is and there's some that are just more. This is like name that tune thing, but that's all you get to hear. All right, that's the whole point. So don't let this work for you. You know. If you put on a tune like that, all right, and you know dancers love it, I win before I ever say circle left. I've already won the game, won the battle, all right? So get stuff that's going to help you. I'm not prone or overworking. And my feeling is if you have a whole toolbox and you've got electric screwdrivers and you got, why are you going to use a hammer? If you've got all that stuff there, use it, all right? Now, if indeed you're going to do it, all right, and then what works for me, all right, is I try to emulate the original artist. Now, I'm not going to sing it that well. I'm sure not going to sing it necessarily that way, but I'm going to use the feel, the emotional feel that artist used. And I'm going to do a female song because that's very obviously would be more difficult. But let me, hang on a minute. Overseas. Right. Now, Crystal Gale tune. Obviously, I don't have hair down to my butt, all right? And I don't have that kind of voice. But I'm going to do a Crystal Gale tune with a Crystal Gale feel. It's the emotional feel. Now, two ways to do it, and I've heard it done this way, all right? Circle left. Don't know why I feel so blue. Make me want to gag. Why would you do that, all right? Makes no sense, all right? She doesn't sing that way, but if you come on, now, like I said, I'm not in her league, but you got to get thinking to say, all right, how's she feeling about this? Somebody has just dumped all over her. She feels bad. Don't know why. Feel so blue. Don't know why I can't get over you. Mean it. You got people like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, several, that from a pure quality of voice are really not good vocalists. Boy, they're killer singers because they mean every word they say. Sincerity sells. And if you're going to do a love song, or whatever you're going to do for that 3 minutes and 41 seconds, get into it. Mean what you're going to say. Sell it. All right? And I promise you, if you do, you'll win. We're going to go in? Here we go.
Everybody's going to have their own interpretation of the same song, right? You have your interpretation, and we'll all have ours. Four-lady chain, turn my girl, you roll away, circle round, lady roll away. Allemande weave around the ring, don't know why I've been so blue. And I just remember my father used to sing it just exactly that same way, and used to vibrato coming out of it. Go ahead, hit it again, all right? Now, Mike Sikorsky is going to show you how it's done.
I quit singing that song years ago for a reason. Don't know why I've been so blue. I wish I remember the words. Allemande left you going do sign do. That's why I quit doing that song. I can't go that high.
Now, but now, there was a pervasive theme there. All right? Can anybody tell me what it was? The sameness? We all sang the melody to the song. We didn't create a new melody. It is what it is, and whatever the melody is, sing it. Now, what amazes, what I found over the last few years is that people know the hook, but they don't know the song. And so I'm listening to see the opener, the break, and the closer. They'll circle left, and they'll just sing the song, and all of a sudden they get the choreography and start calling hash. Now, let me tell you what, a singing call is nothing but the same song with different lyrics. Lyrics being square through, swing through, boy run, whatever it might be. And I won't go into that whole thing, but I promise you, if you can do the song as close to the original as it can be done, melody-wise and feeling-wise, you will win 100% of the time. You know, and the better you do. I love it. Somebody comes up and said, "Oh, you sang that better than who the original." Now, you and I both know that's a lie, but it feels so good to hear it, you know, because you know you're doing your job. And that's where it's at, you know. And this is what I listen to so many people, like, you know, that I'm going to give you, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you, Naro, all right? Naro is a very good friend of mine. Naro Kimura is a very good friend of mine from Tokyo. And the Japanese callers have issues with their accent and always understood. But if you sing with feeling or whatever, you get the message across, all right? And this is what I've noticed. The really good guys, whether it be Japanese or Swedish or German or whatever, they may have a little accent problem. But when they get to that weave the ring and sing that song and they sell it, it doesn't really matter. All right? So this is my way of as far as the showmanship and entertaining is just sell the song. That's where it's at. All right? Now, back to the other thing that Buddy brought up a while ago, and that's fills and chases, which is a special thing to my heart. Without it, I have a deal in the studio when we're in the recording, and basically it's this, and because I do what I call a scratch vocal. I'm in the corner with a vocal booth with glass all the way around, so nobody can miss me. And we got everything from the fiddle player here to the guitar player to the drummer to the whole line around. And the deal's this: if you want to get paid, if my mouth's not moving, somebody better be playing something. And that's just the deal. Somebody's got to be playing something, because I don't like dead time. And Tony used a good example yesterday on what he didn't do. He should have bragged a little, because he did a great thing. There's a tune on Lumac called Go Rush. It gives you no help. Zero. It's doom tick, doom tick, doom tick, doom. But the song is good. The rhythm track's good. So Tony just created a way to call it. Now, when that happens, you have no option but to do all the work, because it's not doing any work for you. So that's the first time he came up with, you're going to weave it, wind it, wind it, weave it, and one guy's singing the wind in and wind out, and others, and you go crazy. It's a hard work song, and it's normally a duet or more type of a tune. But as a result, it became one of the more popular tunes that's ever come down. But it had nothing to do with the music. It had to do with the style of calling. a tune we did a long time ago called "Oh Lonesome Me." It was the style of calling with the four-legged ladies go chain that ring and turn that lady go round. Hey, roll that lady with a half-size chain, circle that go around. Hey, it's what really sold the tune. But the tunes that help you, that do the work for you, as we said a while ago on that beautiful Sunday with those horns, man, that's because if you think about it, somebody said today, I love to hear a song with a good, strong melody, so I know what to sing. I agree. But when you do sing, what do you sing? You sing the melody. The dancer never hears that melody because you're putting your voice on top of it. What does the dancer hear? What's being played when you shut up? Which, unfortunately, of us callers is not nearly often enough. But nonetheless, that's what the dancer's going to hear. And way back in 74, the first one never really put me on that. I was talking to Flippo. I just met him, and I'd ask him for help with my pattern. He listened to me call. He said, it's good. He said, you're using the wrong music, and it's too fast, and you talk too much. But other than that, it's fine. I said, there ain't nothing left. There's nothing there. And so he made me get up a tip, because in 74 at the National, they kept reevaluating the callers. And by Saturday night, God bless him, I was in this main hall with John Jones and Barry Medford and Don Franklin. I don't know if you remember Don Franklin. He had Wagon Wheel Records. I was terrified. And Flip gets up there and he said, no problem. He said, you call choreography only and shut your mouth. I said, you are kidding me. And he said, just do it. I said, okay, fine. So, I mean, I was like, hit two couples, square through. Do-si-do. Swing through. You ever heard 300 squares hit their corner at the same time together and nobody misses? That's a pretty good ovation, I promise you. Same thing on the singing call. All of a sudden, I'm singing the song, and when I don't sing the melody, I just shut up. And all of a sudden, everybody's dancing to this music. I'm thinking, wow. So now if I'd known him as well then as I know now, I'd never trusted him. Not in a million years. But that's just the way it is. But you sing any songs that fill in for you, and that's what goes. Now, Buddy brought up another thing, backup harmony. Sometimes it's amazing the difference. Now, we cut a tune, good tune. Somebody mentioned earlier, like Brad Paisley. Great tune. I did not put backup harmony on there. Big mistake. Big mistake. Because the middle break and closer are emulations of Alabama tune. All right? Alabama's a group. And so the original tune, when you hit the middle break, sides face, grasp, play some back home, come on music that comes is empty if you're by yourself. I love it. It's a great instrumental. It's just empty. All right? So we changed that dude. All right? Feels so right. Loving the first sides, face, grand square. Play some back home, come on music that comes from the heart. Now you got a group. Now everybody's singing. It's no big deal. He just added two more instruments and makes them up a little higher. The instruments happen to be a voice. And now you get the same feel of the original tune. All right? Tune here, Sheryl Crow tune. Without a vocal, it's empty. And I'll tell you an interesting story about this. And the lady lives in Nashville, and because I told the engineer, I said, I want a backup vocal on this song. I want somebody that sounds like Sheryl Crow. So he calls me and says, I got this gal. She's really good. But she wants $200 to do her backup vocal. I said, were you kidding me? And I said, would you let me speak? She got on the phone. I said, $200 for a 3-minute backup vocal? She said, yep. I said, $200? She said, I'm good. I said, $200? She said, I'm really good. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. And this is where I stuck my foot in my mouth. I said, if you really are, I'll pay you $100 on this one. If you're as good as you say, I'll pay you $200 on all the futures. Should have kept my mouth shut. But listen, she sounds like the original. But when you sing with this, without her, she's empty. Now, let me, come on over. Anyway, she's just on the weave the ring part. But listen to this girl's, don't call it a boy. Weave the ring. All of a sudden that song just comes alive. Without her there, it's just dead as a doornail. All right? It cost me some money. But anyway, that kind of backup singing, so that kind of talent is good, and all of a sudden you have a boost. Now, here's an interesting thing, particularly if it happens to be anybody gets involved in synthesized music. A pure synthesized note is just that. It's a pure note, no harmonics. If you play a guitar, synthesized guitar in an E, you get that's all you get. If you want all the rest of them, you've got to play the harmonic notes up and above the board. As a result, a lot of synthesized music, I know a lot of people say, I don't like that. The reason is you're not hearing all of it. A guitar note, if you strum a guitar string, it's like dropping a pebble in a brook, and it has all those waves come out. You don't get those waves with a synthesized note. You get bloop. You get an Olympic dive, choop, and no waves. That's all you get, all right? But the problem is if you come up with that without the vocals, it comes empty. So so you have to start adding tracks on. So these little things but it doesn't matter to you as a performer. Listen to it. You like it. It feels good. You do it. Now there's certain things you have to know your limitations. And I know I've told this story before. My ex-wife, it's not the reason she's an ex-wife, but she loved Frank Sinatra. I don't do Sinatra. I just can't. I've really tried. I'd love to. And she finally went down to Norman Murbach years ago and she bought a record on DNR, I think. That's Life? Isn't it what it called? DNR record called That's Life. She said, you got to learn this. I said, okay. So I put it on my turntable, and on a Saturday afternoon, I worked that thing for 4 hours. I got done. She said, you're right. You really suck. I said, yeah, what can I tell you? I just don't do that kind of stuff, all right? So know your limitations, but know what. And you watch that floor. Eye contact. Don't sing to this guy up here. Look at it and see what's going on that floor, all right? There are little things that just, oh, wow. There was a thing on 4-bar B on wind that makes you bend that Tanya Tucker thing. And strong enough to bend. It had, I called the whole song for one mandolin lick in the middle break. You said somebody was, and that just winds my clock. You know, that one little thing, because you watch the floor and they'll go, whoo. And that's what you want. You know, you get the attention on the floor. So that's my approach, is try to be sincere, try to do as close to the original as you can. Now, sometimes you do voice affectations. Be careful with that, all right? Occasionally I'll do Willie Nelson, and I'll do it with one nostril closed. You know, I even saw a guy once, he had a little miniature armadillo, and inside the rubber armadillo was a clothespin. He put it on his nose and had it. Point being, you concentrate on an armadillo, you never realized he wasn't singing worth a darn. All right? You know, it's a point of concentration. But you can do affectations with lots of stuff. One of them, Buddy just told me we need to recut. Well, it was On the Other Hand. Yeah. Oh, Randy Travis thing. If you're going to do, you got to say, on the other hand, which may sound like, you know, but you've got to at least give it that thing. The accent. It's the accent. For example, I just caught a George Strait concert the other night. The man is incredible, and I can't begin to copy him, but you can copy the style. Where is it? Write this down thing. Here, right here. Now, he has a way of saying this with an accent. I can't do a George Strait, but if you're going to do a George Strait song, use this basic approach. Circle. Never saw the end in sight. Fools are kind of blind. Now, if you listen to the original, that's where it is. Fools are kind of blind. That's the way he says it. Now, why would you say fools are kind of blind? You can do that, and you're technically correct, but you're not very entertaining. All right? So I've taken now, when I send out stuff, and I'm paying for it, we all know that, I'm sending out a snippet of the original tune so you can listen to the way that guy did it to begin with, and then maybe give you something to copy and go after. Because that's what sold. And I can guarantee you that 99% of the time, your version is not as good as the original. So why don't you give it an attempt to do the original if you can. Questions? We have a microphone. This is a pacified group. Guys, the wireless is right here. Oh, right here. Yeah. Yes, please. You have real knees. You go do them. Mine are titanium. I'll keep mine up here.
My name for the record is Lottie Ainsworth. Wait, I just want to know if Brown Eyed Blue is old, or is it a recut?
No, it's just the original.
Okay, and what's the number?
It is Circle D number. Used to be here once upon a time. Hang on a minute. It's CD number 211. Great tune. And this is the original. There's several originals. I owned Circle D for a number of years, and I sold it after number 225, I think was the last one I did on it. And I think the lady in Texas whose husband passed away still owns Circle D as far as I know. But anyway, CD 211. I don't know if it's available on, I'd have to check see the availability. I'm not sure. There's MP3 available to it, yes. Yeah, there's lead, yeah. It wasn't as strong a lead. Understand early on was a really investigative type. And so, we'll show you. This doesn't have it's short, you see it. But now, in the earlier days, before I got a little smarter, we had who played the lead play his own fills. And I got to be real busy, and that's been changed since then. Now that we have somebody who plays the lead, somebody else plays the fills, and so on, and it's a little easier to do. But early on, they would take the whole time through, and they would play the lead and their own fills. You know, we just tried to change that to get a little more interesting. Don Beck.
Don Beck, Massachusetts. Since there aren't any people that have questions that they want answered, I just thought I'd throw in a comment just to reinforce something you said, Wade. My first wife was a music teacher, and I'd be upstairs practicing and doing singing calls in my best Western twang to fit the music, and I'd keep hearing, "Stop twanging, Donald, stop twanging." But it sounds better that way. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it really fits the music. I finally heard her enough times, so I recorded myself doing my best Western twang and just singing it straight New England, and then listening. And she was right. God, it surprised me. She was right.
There is no substitute for being yourself. You know, I have a son I've got two sons who are rockers and have rock bands. And one of them, I listened to some of his first recordings, and he kept this British affectation. I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's style." I said, "Well, it's stinky style. You know, try being you. Be yourself. But you use the emotional feel of the original song."
David Staples, Durham, North Carolina. I was questioning whether when you put the music on for the dancers to fill the floor, do you start your music over again, or do you find a starting place after the music has already started?
I can't speak for anybody else, and they can all tell you. I personally start mine, I start over, mainly because I'm big on intros, and it's kind of sets the tone. That's just me personally. How about you, Mike?
I want to start it over because I want to phrase it. Even if I can't phrase through the rest of the pattern, I'm going to phrase that bow to the partner.
I don't use any music to square them up. I just say, get up and dance.
It's these California guys. I tell you what. No, but the reason, or let's use one of Mike's. What was the one? Oh, like a knockout. All right. This has got, it sets the tone, and you're right. It sets the phrasing, unless you start right. But like this, I'm ready to go. they know it's coming. Crank the engine up. It's like, gentlemen, start your engine. Really going about it. They're going to run the hall. It gets you going. It gets get that motor. Whereas if I've cranked the floor up, I mean, I've got them squared up. All right, everybody's there. Here we go. Hey, about it. That's no showmanship there. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike Hogan, Omaha, Nebraska. On that patter stuff, a couple of different things that I've seen guys do is you might not use the patter music that you're going to use for your patter as your square up music. If you're doing that, I would think you'd probably want it to be kind of the same style of what your patter music is going to be. You're not going to do boom chuck and then come back with something completely different for the actual patter. But that's one. The other thing that I do, I don't always do that, but a lot of times, a lot of the patter that we use has a really cool intro. You know, there's sometimes there's 16 beat, sometimes even longer intros that you kind of have to wait and let that music play. So if I use that, then I start, and I'm going to use that music for square up, I find somewhere in the middle of the record, so I don't give away the intro. That's really cool. I use that as the start of the.
Good point.
I actually start calling.
You know, hand in hand with the intro is your finish, and we all get on this computer stuff, and this thing automatically loops, and you got to be careful of that because you can run into a 25-minute long patter tip. Now, I fixed my computer so it loops once. That's it. And it's going to loop once, and it's going to end. Now, that's going to do two things for me. Number one, it's going to remind me to stop calling when it ends. But number two, it allows me to play those closing notes because in some of these pieces, there's our volume here. Some of these have a nice way to get out of here, and I want to chase it right out of there. When you're home, you bow to your partner, down the corner two, they give you a square hand. And we're done, and we're out of there. And we miss that so many times because we're looping it. And then so, you know, if you're looping it and then you're playing it right along here and play or not. A perfect ending, right, yeah. See. And a promenade right back home and around to go and when you're through. You bow to your partner and you bow to your corner too. Everybody's home. It doesn't have the same effect now, doesn't it? So you've lost the where you pick up your good intro, pick up your good ending. Let it finish out. And if you don't know how to do it, it's on, if you're using Square View, it's the key marked L, which is loop. Hit it, and it'll turn your looping off. And by all means, you should all be hitting that L button like about as soon as you start that music. Hit it, kill it, let it in, especially if your hoedowns are already looped for or playing out for a 7-minute long hoedown. And it loops, brothers and sisters, you're into 14 minutes now. You're into 21 minutes.
Now, personally, I find that quite often it's very difficult to when you're programming your patter to what is going to provide the best entertainment for the dancers to actually time that to the end of a piece of music. And so my personal choice was to keep the music out of my way. My hoedowns are at least 12 minutes long. A lot of them are 20 minutes long because if you do workshops and you turn the music off and you walk something, you want the same music coming back on. I set my fade, which is the Y key to 5 seconds, and so you might be harmonizing to the music when you get them home, and then you go into the talk and you say bow to the partner in the corner, and you press the Y key and give yourselves a hand. I think you stirred the bucket. We're going to do a singing call now. Just chatter over it as the music fades gently underneath you. That's more my approach, and I think you were next.
Sharon Baldwin, Thomasville, North Carolina. As a new caller, in trying to pick music that you can use that you obviously are going to be paying for, and sometimes you get it home and it's not worth a darn for you, is there ways to maybe pick different pieces of music? And also, once you get it home and start using it, is it always a good idea to record yourself doing it before you present it?
Oh, yes. That's all a matter of opinion. That's all, again, in my opinion, but absolutely. You know, you need to hear what you're saying because your perception as you're doing it, believe me, is quite different from that when you hear a playback. That's my personal opinion, but I do. And I would love to tell you that every single song I do, I've recorded. It used to be true, but it's no longer. I don't anymore. I've got a pretty good handle on what I am and what I'm doing. But for the first, I'd say for the first 5 years or more, I didn't do a tune until I put it on tape. Y'all remember what tape was? Those little cassette things, Until I put it on tape, I didn't. I would love to say I do it now. I don't, but I used to all the time. It's an excellent tool because you hear yourself. Now, I'll tell you what I used to do when I was in Mesa. I had a gentleman that came in every 3 months, and I never knew when, but he was always at my dances. And once every 3 months, he would record me. At the end of the dance, he said, "Here's your tape." I'd take it, go home, and throw up. For the most part, for example, one dance I did 47 Ferris wheels. Habits are terrible. So, if you get a chance to record yourself and listen, you'll be amazed sometimes how good things are and sickened how bad things are all at the same time.
Be prepared to hate yourself when you first hear yourself.
But it's an excellent tool, yes. It really and truly is. Now, I want to go along with something that both these guys said, if I may. Using tags. Let me go down here. There are certain, and I've got several ones, but you go listen to them. The endings are sometimes as important or more important than the beginning. Now, I want you to listen to this. It went away. Where is it? It's I've. Where'd it go? Did you steal my record? Here it is. I got it right there. Good deal. Now, this is the thing on Chicago Country called I've Got Rhythm. It's got the greatest tag to come down the pike. Now, you can't. What? Well, then I'm going to finish up. This session is officially closed, and I'm going to tell you what I'm just thinking about. No, but I'm going to run over a little bit. Anyway, I want to do this. Now, it did not always work. This particular tune works because it's upbeat, and I use it to close a dance with. Someone uses it to close a session with. Exactly what I was talking about. Here we go. I got rhythm, that's anything, boy. Doing Alabama left that corner. Swing your own. God bless, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this session. We'll see you next time.
Please mention it on your comment sheets if you enjoyed the session. If you enjoyed any one of us in particular, please write that down on the comment sheets. We thank y'all, and you can ask your question of us